I'm sure many of you are familiar with this image on your screen. It's from a series on Hulu called The Handmaid's Tale. Now, for those of you that aren't aware of what the plot is, it's a dystopian kind of future where there's only a certain tiny group of females that have the ability to reproduce, and instead of logically treating them very, very good, they're treated very, very poorly. And in this particular instance, the lead character here picks up a gun and defends herself. Now, it's very strange to see because that group of people that put this show out, very left-wing, a group of people that you would think were very anti-gun. But it was weird because the gun they picked up was literally the identical gun described by Joe Biden. See, some time ago he had this little sit-down where he talked about getting a quote-unquote double-barrel shotgun and using that for your self-defense needs. So it was weird to see the two things correlate. Then, most recently, he talked about this idea of buybacks and even limitations on the 9mm pistol. And DC is known for one thing. It's known for sausage making. And this is an election year. And, we do know that we have a leader that will say whatever he needs to say and do whatever he needs to do to get reelected. So, something came to mind that I think a lot of you will agree with when you hear it. It's the strategy that they're going to use to collapse the system, so to speak, using kind of a hybrid Cloward Piven strategy. Now, that strategy is something that maybe some of you haven't heard of. It's where you overwhelm the system. It's been classically used to describe overloading like the U.S. welfare system in order to usher in a new age of North American weird, crazy socialism that never works. However, in this particular case, when it comes to gun control, here's what I think they're going to do, and I want you guys to kind of stick with me on this. I brought up this statistic to show you how few people in North America really have concealed carry permits. Florida leads the way by far, with 1.784 million people having concealed carry permits. But what that doesn't show you is that it's a state of 21 million people. It's less than 10%. And Florida is the number one state by far. Pennsylvania is number 2, Texas is number 3, with even less percentages. Now stick with me on this. Let's say there's another so-called flag incident in the coming year, which I'm sure we can probably all guarantee it's just a matter of when, not if. So they do some sausage making in DC and come up with this law that says that there's a 5-round rule. And any weapon, 5 rounds or less, is okay. However, any weapon more than that, you need to have a quote-unquote concealed carry permit for. You have to go through that process and get that type of a license. Now, I'm not here to debate whether it's constitutional or not constitutional. They don't care. We know this. But look how this would work. What it would do, it would force a giant flood of people to try to go get these permits. And it would overwhelm the system. They wouldn't be able to keep up with the mass amount of people trying to go get these permits to keep their more than 5-round weapons. Now, if you had a revolver, you'd be fine. If you had a pump shotgun that was 5 rounds or less, you'd be fine. Even some of the old quote-unquote military-style weapons, like they like to refer to, have only the ability to carry like a 5-round stripper clip. Those would be okay. The old bolt-action single shots, those would be fine. So it would only apply to weapons like, the 9mm, or others that have magazines greater than 5. And, what they have classically described incorrectly as quote-unquote assault weapons. And there would be a buyback program. You see, and he's talked about this. He's telegraphed this, where, there would be this grace period for so many months that you would have to go and turn your weapon in if you didn't want to go through the process of getting a concealed carry. Or they're going to have some version of some type of a special background check for the long guns that are more than 5 rounds. That will overwhelm the system, of course. Then you have so long to go and sell, quote unquote, your weapon back to either the government or some authorized agent. Or have weapons brought in to be modified so that they can only carry 5 rounds. You can even buy those. That's something else I just thought of. At cheaper than dirt, I think it is, they have specifically modified magazines that look like they're full 20 and 25 round mags, but they're almost all completely solid and they only carry 5 rounds. I always thought that was a very strange thing for them to already have up and running and ready to go. This might be what they're going to try to do. Because it would overwhelm the system. Not enough people would be able to get the permits in time to keep their weapons, and so there would be this huge buyback, these people basically turning weapons in. Instead of having to go confiscate weapons, they would have people turning them in, and this is the game they would use. It's a form of Cloward and Piven, where they take an existing system, the system that we use for concealed carry, and then they just modify it in a way that allows a certain amount of weapons to stay out there. And like I said, every revolver, well, just about every revolver, there's a few 6 shots out there, but they're mostly all 5 shot. They would be all fine. The vast majority, though, of semi-automatics, would probably you would have to go get this permit. So they wouldn't be saying that they're banning them. They would just be putting a new amount of bureaucracy in. So there wouldn't be this political angle that people could say they're quote-unquote banning guns. Because no, we're not necessarily banning them. We're just saying that you have to go through this process. What they're not telling you, of course, is that the process is going to be completely overwhelmed. And it takes a decent amount of time now in Florida to get a concealed carry to go through all of the couple months at least. And like I said, in Florida, we're the number 1 state by far. We have less than 10% of our population. We have a population of 21, 22 million, something like that, and only 1.784 active permits. And I know Texas, I'm pretty sure Texas has a greater population than we do, and they only have 1.2 million. So it's even less for them. And this isn't the amount of people that have weapons. This is the amount of people that have concealed carries. So when this system got flooded with, millions and millions and tens of millions of requests, they just wouldn't be able to handle it. And people would be forced to go and turn in, or quote unquote, turn in their weapons. This is the angle I think they're going to take. Because they, like I said, they are angling for it. They have, it just seems like with everything that this guy has said and has been said by other people recently, that this is what they're going for. This was so strange to see this, because this whole TV series, this whole Hulu series, is nothing but one left-wing meme after another, just back to back to back to back to back to back to back. And by left-wing, I mean North American left-wing, not actual left-wing. And then to see this scene where this girl grabs this, and she's not being chased down. Nobody is chasing her with other weapons, where she has to, either die. What she is doing here, she's hiding, and then she sees two people that have harmed her, and they're a couple of stories down over the edge of a balcony, and they're arguing amongst themselves. And so she grabs this thing, and then she loads it, and she has a bead on these two, and had she pulled the trigger, she didn't, but had she pulled the trigger, she'd killed both of them in one shot. And they didn't even see her coming. So it was a really weird scene for this, basically this left-wing ridiculous parody. And I always wondered about it, and then I saw the clip with Biden talking about using this exact weapon. And I thought, that's a strange coincidence. Then, talking about the Buyback program, seeing what our current leader has to say, and then the very tiny few amount of people that have concealed carry permits, this would make perfect sense. So I guess the moral of the story here is not an ideal thing, but go get your concealed carry now as fast as you can. Beat the rush. Because once that happens, things are going to start to move really quick. And I think, the cherry on that sundae, so to speak, will be this. The guys who run the gun stores have to pay insurance. And I think they're going to probably angle the insurance industry to jack up their rates depending on how many of these more than 5 round magazine weapons they sell. So it's all out there. It's all laid out. It's all ready to go. They just have to have the event now. That sparks it. And it is an election year. Guaranteed. This is coming. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next time.